Before we begin, I just wanted to say that sorry that I've kind of delayed this video for 5 months straight. I really just procrastinated this one. Like, I know there's a fine line between burnout and procrastinating, but this is very obvious. I had, like, a lot of time during my vacation to edit, but I was just lazy and didn't. So, sorry for not uploading for 5 months. Though the first 2 months I did have an exam, so man. Reflourished is a mod that really doesn't need any introduction. It's the most infamous PvZ2 mod for what it does, and also its quality. For what it does, is it expands on the aspects of PvZ2 almost everyone likes, and it's very, very well polished. And to me, Steam Ages is kind of a crown jewel because it's a perfect continuation of PvZ2, which is why in this video I'm gonna beat it in the dumbest way possible, or well, silliest way possible, beating with only damage from Puff-Shrooms. The rules are pretty simple, only Puff-Shroom is allowed to deal damage, no other tower. Well, except Charge Guard, but Charge Guard deals so much little chip damage that it's the only exception I'm willing to make. Because Charge Guard, as you'll see soon, is an extremely important plant for this challenge, and I will not be able to beat it without it. Plus, like, I think in Reflourished it no longer deals damage, so... Any other indirect ways of dealing damage, such as magnets or blowovers, will be banned. Also, obviously, buying plant food, power-ups, and Zen Garden will be banned. Although last one is nowhere near as broken as in vanilla. Shoveling for explosives is still something that it's kinda, sketchy. Intro and challenge stuff out of the way, let's just get into it. Day 1. Just by looking at the footage, you can tell that my deck is less than ideal. But this is only the first day, and at this point in time, I just downloaded Reflourished, so I wasn't gonna be an expert off the bat at Puff-Shrooming. Because really, who is? I was just picking the first thing that came to mind that was good in a challenge run like this. And also just tomfoolery with Sunbeam because this is day 1. Because I'm doing a challenge run doesn't mean I can't fool around because this is PvZ2. PvZ2 is fooling around the game. Since day 2 has a pre-placed cattail, I decided that pre-placed plants are allowed to deal damage. I did that just so I have the general caveat for endangered plant levels, which, spoiler alert, they are in this world. And there are quite a few of these. If you count the other special objective, then I guess you can say a lot more. Anyways, Cattail is a very good plant for Steam Ages. It's a heavy plant, so I mean, which is good when space is taking up like these sewers. And it deals with backward zombies. Speaking of which, the sewers. In this challenge, they are really, really bad because we can't deal with the backward zombies unless we A, put a walnut and stall it out, or B, we just use Jargot and yeet it past our defenses, which only really makes the problem slightly less worse. Our later strategy deals with backward zombies pretty well, but that's comes until part 2, and in part 2, sewers aren't as focused on as in part 1, which, you know, considering it's a world gimmick, it gets a lot more focused on part 1. That's just how half the world gimmicks go. And by half, I mean literally all of them. Except for passive things like Dark Ages. Like, you can't really do too much of a focus on that. Nor has there been a huge focus on Graves, and the focus on Graves has been like Night 14. Rambling aside, do I really need to tell you that Steam Ages Day 2 is an easy level? You could just see it with your own eyes while I've been rambling. Day 3 technically doesn't matter because it's a conveyor belt level, and of course we can't pick our plants in a conveyor belt level, so most of these we will skip. However, I'll mention it anyway because it's the Gentleman Zombie intro, and Gentleman Zombie is not a threat. Like, especially in this level because we have Cattail, and Cattail kind of counters Gentleman's whole umbrella uppy getting into your defenses thing because Cattails just target him. But also in just with Puff-Shroom, he sucks. I don't realize this until way later. That's a theme, by the way. I don't realize that a zombie is easy to deal with. But Gentleman's kinda just embarrassing and not knowing how his gimmicks work. Like, he doesn't jump over sun producers, and Tall Nut in particular. However, if there's a plant in front of them, he'll fly over both of these things. Or, I guess, not even in front. I've caught him plenty of times flying over saplings even though they were behind Primal Sunflower. I guess next to, because he landed in between tiles? I don't know. His flying AI is kinda weird. That's all you need to know. And what you also need to know is that he is the least dangerous special for this challenge, and probably in casual play too. Like, he's the most spammable special, so I guess that makes sense. But the fact that there's plants that just totally shut him down, Cattail, Vanilla, even though it's not like that good, and yeah, and Lily of Alchemy, how could I forget? Even though Lily's kind of RNG. Also, I would count Goopy, but that's more of a Gemium, and I won't count it. If you wanted proof to show that this is first time playing Steam Ages, here's it. Day 4 introduces the first day where I actually use Power Lily, who combos extremely well with Puff-Shrooms. And really that's about it. The level's easy otherwise. But I just wanted to say that Gentleman's Zombies voice lines crack me up every time. Here are some impressions of my favorite ones. Bloody plants. I'm knackered. Primate could go for a sunflower. I fancy a cuppa. By George. I think that's what he says? Tally-ho! Other than that, this level isn't really that interesting. Also, I still didn't have Imitator at the time of playing SA Day 4. Day 5 introduces Vanilla, and this plant really does not like the world gimmick. It especially hates it in 2C, where it was very kernel pult-like. But now it's actually kinda decent, because it's more than just the tool plant for like one zombie. Wait, no, tool plants are for gimmicks, not zombies. Never mind. It's good against every 2C special now, instead of just Gentleman, which is definitely nice. And now it's kind of its own thing, no longer being Kernel Pult, but with this weird AoE thingy. They both barely do damage, but one's AoE. About how zombies deal Vanilla. Gentleman just gets screwed over by the stun. Coal Miner actually gets stunned, unlike with Stunnion, who just doesn't. And with Furnace, stun-based attacks can disable his explosion, though that's a bit specific. And there's also a fourth one that he counters quite well, Mechanic. I'm not gonna spoil him because, trust me, you'll hear a lot about him later. And it's mostly rants. Day 6 introduces a new special, Barrel Zombie, who unlike Gentleman, is actually more threatening than Buckethead. That's mainly because of him having twice DPS, which means he can really tear down walls quickly, which I shouldn't tell you, you absolutely need in Steam Ages for the sewers. Which is why I kinda recommend you bring 2 sets of walls, because you're gonna need a lot of them. At least in part 2. Part 1, you can take it a bit easy. And he also has another ability that makes him quite unexpectedly dangerous mid-game, and that's this. Also, during my attempt, this happened. I will not be talking about Day 7. It doesn't introduce a new zombie, no new plants, no nothing. It's just a standard conveyor belt level. It's just decent. What else am I supposed to say? For Steam Age's first 4 flagger and levels and objective, it is embarrassingly easy. Well, at least until the last few waves. I'll admit it, those did not go well. But otherwise, pretty bog standard. Or maybe it's just that power rally is good in part 1, because there's no S tier zombies. Or even A tiers, to be honest. There's no A tier zombie, at least for this challenge. Also, you can't really see it in the footage because I'm getting absolutely destroyed here. But I got a Puff-Shroom costume that's closest to the time period other than the buckets, because I did not want to pay for those. It did not come separate. The Steam Ages bucket did not come separately, and I did not want to spend literally all my buckaroonies on that costume bundle. So I got Puffhead. Also, looking back at this, I can't believe how insane my plays were here. Not as in like extremely good or something. No, like just how stupid of ideas are these? Sweet potato in a level as Gentleman and Barrel? Really? Of all things? I like stupid ideas. Not really stupid, like absurd ideas that just work for no reason. I'm not really gonna bother you too much the final wave. I stalled it out and then used Puff-Shrooms to clear out what's the rest of these top lane. I would have talked about Day 9 here anyway because it's an endangered split P level, but I also gotta talk about it here because, well, the first time I beat this level, I had to cheat. Basically, I used Hurricane to get rid of a Gentleman because he was behind a split B. And I decided to replay it with a new strategy, and Jesus, was this level extremely easy with that new strategy. I mean, you can kinda clearly see what I'm going for here, and you can just tell how kind of OP it is and how stupid I am for not realizing this. Though yet again, I'm not that good at figuring these sort of things out. And also, look how many counters Gentleman has. Why did I struggle with him on day 4? Like, what was I doing? That's the question I ask myself 90% of the time when watching old footage. Like, I do some insanely dumb plays in part 1. Luckily, part 2 forces me to actually be good at the game, so that changes. Day 10 introduces reverse engineering, which basically just puts... I can't really call these blueprints because they're not really blue, so I'll call them building instructions. So only the backward zombies can read the building instructions, and we gotta prevent them from getting there. Sounds simple, right? Well, at least in day 10 it is. In later levels, they really expand a lot upon this gimmick. Also, don't try Char Guard, he literally doesn't do anything. Even if that wasn't a complete fluke, even if he clearly flies past it, he'll still eat it. Because apparently it's coded as a tall plant. I think. That's just a hypothesis. So, Day 11 is quite an interesting level. It introduces Coal Miner, who is actually kind of a threatening zombie. He definitely goes in high A or even S in this challenge, since A, he can't be stunned without being damaged, of course, and B, he just tears down our walls. And even when we do defeat him, his golems have a bad habit of staying. Plus, not to mention that he also contains a zombie, and bada bim bada boom, you have a recipe for a pretty annoying zombie for this challenge. Normally he's fine once you realize he's coated off of barrel, so he gets countered by Spike Bead. Doesn't necessarily make him that bad. It makes him far more manageable, sure, but it does make him useless. So is kind of Inventor of Blover. Wait, no, scratch that. That just removes the zombie. Anyways, as you're seeing in the background here, Day 11 uses a very, very dumb strategy. Basically, because I didn't have the luxury of picking a lot of my plants, I'm stuck with 3 seed slots, both of which I used for 2 things: Thymorp, Imitator Thymorp, and Tall Nut, just so I can stall out a bit. That's it. Nothing else. This level's very dumb. And this isn't the last time I'll be using Thymorp and Imitator Thymorp for something stupid like this. Will be much worse of a gameplay loop game later on, but for now, it's just this. Kinda boring. Waiting for everything to be killed by lawnmowers. And just waiting for recharges. Doesn't really scream interesting, because it isn't. Day 12 is when I start employing a strategy with the Primal Sunflowers. And by strategy, I mean taking advantage of their weird rework in Reflourished. Okay, calling it a rework is a bit harsh, but that's the best I can describe it. It now costs 25 more sun in exchange for a lot more HP, and that HP is actually capable of stalling Gentlemen and Coneheads, because Gentleman's just basically a Conehead in disguise if we plant Primal Sunflowers. Those are generally just pseudo walls for this challenge. Like, in actual play, just use Primal Walnut. Though, it wouldn't hurt to have a Primal Sunflower in case a Gentleman gets past. Like, it's way less cost efficient now compared to Puff-Shroom, but in Steam Ages you really don't get that much space, so cost efficiency is not your most looked for trait. I mean, you don't want to look for a cost-inefficient plant, obviously, but like, it's not your top one priority. That would be heavy plants and wall plants. Like, if you have the sun tool, keep it up. Primal Walnut in Steam Ages. Though, generally, I don't know how you get that much sun. So, I mean, I have 3 columns filled of Puff-Shrooms, so... Pff. But, generally, I would recommend Tall Nut, as it's quite good as both a wall plant, and it's actually buffed in Reflourished. Plus the secondary wall, I would recommend Peanut a few levels in, and before that Shard Guard. And it's mostly, Shard is mostly as a secondary support for front lines because we are not gonna have enough tall nuts. And Peanuts, in part 2, he's just a sewer clogger, as he's the best sewer clogger. As a wall plant, he's kinda not good. I don't have to mention how confused Peanut is because, I mean, if you're a wall plant that wants to be placed in the back and you are not a sewer clogger, what are you doing? Like, it's a good fit to the world, but like outside, it's almost like a world plant, but not really. Or at least that's what I would say if this was vanilla Peanut, but no, it actually has 10 seconds recharge, which actually makes it semi-viable outside of it. Still not good. Bring Primal Walnut, so much better. But, I mean, you can try Peanut instead if you want. He's not god-awful anymore. Because 10 seconds actually makes him quite spammable. Believe it or not, that's just 2 pea shooters worth of recharge. Day 13 is the last stand level. And in last stand levels, Puff-Shroom is banned. And if you have eyes and you see the loadouts, you know exactly what I'm about to do. Yes, Time Warp Stalling works for this level, which is just hilarious, that a level can be beaten without damaging the zombies once until the ending wave. And yes, you can do this without aloe. I just didn't get it. My first attempt, I just brought aloe because I thought it was necessary. But actually, I think it's a bit better without aloe and some optimizations. At least that was my second attempt. And yeah, what can I say? Well, this was an easy level, ironically. In day 14, we just straight up don't have plant food, so you know what plant we're bringing in to stop the zombies. It doesn't work. We can't just do it forever like in day 13 because plant food. But we don't need to. 10 Puff-Shrooms are well enough to do the early game. Plus we don't have set sun limits, so Shard and Tall Nut are fair game. We just can't dig them up once I've planted them. And also I'm using Slap Flings because aloe doesn't actually heal Shard Guard because that would be OP, and OP is not really that welcome here. So yeah, no aloe, Sap Fling to basically double HP and have zombie speed. I'll never know why day 9 will be the biggest struggle point of part 1 when this level that literally doesn't have one of the most important tools in this run was actually laughably easy. And I even did this victory lap. The last level of Steam Ages Part 1, Day 15, actually kinda deserves to be the last level because, well, it takes away lots of space for us. And by lots of space, I do not mean that lightly. Half the lawn is taken away by other plants. We can't plant Puff-Shrooms in the back late game because those places are reserved for tall nuts, saplings, and sunflowers. And the other side is pestered with zombies like Barrel and Coal Miner, who just will destroy Puff-Shrooms in like 5 milliseconds. You can see why this level is deemed by me the hardest, right? Though the solution is just be good and not fumble things up. Okay, that's not really that good of advice, but it's at least true. That's all I'll give you. Looking at Zomboss's employees and the type of employees he wants to hire, I tackled Day 16, the conveyor belt gargantua level that is always in the middle of the world in PvZ 2, and because this is Reflourished, it's obviously here. Not complaining about that, I'm just saying it. Day 17 introduces the Furnace Zombie. He takes extra damage from fire plants, which are banned in this challenge, and really, I didn't even have good ones. Like, the only good ones were Jacko and that's it. I didn't have Fire P. And also, his explosion is disabled by stun-based attacks, which is why Vanilla's kinda good against him, and also Stunian. He's still A tier because exploding a 3x3 area is genuinely dangerous. No matter how low HP you got, and even then, even if our Puff-Shrooms are defended, our walls are not. And our walls recharge extremely slowly, so we just lose a lot of resources because of him. Still not a huge threat, just one to keep in mind. The 18 is a conveyor belt level which more or less just features electricity, which got added around the same time as Steam Ages Part 2. And by around the same time, I mean literally the exact same time. So, I guess that's why I got advertised here. It's pretty good against Gentleman, because he doesn't fly over it like other edible instas like Hypno. And that's about it, like, nothing else really special about electricity. We unlock Peanut after day 18, and even though I just talked a lot about the plant, well, not a lot, just in general, I still kinda wanna talk about him because he is oh so stupidly designed. That's obviously Vanilla's fault, but really, half the damage when you use it as a wall plant. What was the idea behind this? This actually makes Peanut kind of a good tool plant in Steam Ages, unintentionally. However, in normal play, he's really not that good with the shooting element. And the main reason is, it's PDPS, 1.25 times PDPS, which is so bad, and it's not even splash. Like, genuinely, this is awful. Reed deals less damage, but at least he has splash. This is just weak. Okay, short section about Peanut is done. Now let's talk about Mechanic. So now you might be thinking, how is Mechanic balanced? Well, he's not balanced in this challenge at all. The Puff-Shrooms are getting countered hard by Mechanic. But in normal play, Cattail, Vanilla, Lily of the Alchemy, Peanut, Maypop Mechanic, and Lotus Fruit all deal very well with Mechanic. Albeit for some of them, I'll recommend other wall plants because they do need wall support for this guy. Like, his Clockworks are not a joke. They have 2 times each DPS of basics. I think a bit more, but I'm not quite sure. Or maybe less. And they move around about 60 or 70% faster than basics, which is pretty fast. Before I talk about day 20 in detail, I just wanted to say something that I may be wrong about. When Mechanic is killed, his machine explodes, and I think that damages zombies. During day 19, you might have seen something similar to that, and maybe it's just Puff-Shrooms dealing damage to zombies. Or maybe it's just the explosion deals damage to zombies. I don't know, I may be wrong about this. And if I'm wrong, comment down below and tell me I'm wrong. Don't be rude, of course. Okay, now the actual level. Steam Ages Day 20 took me more than 10 hours to beat. Which... I know I'm just using Puff-Shrooms, but like... I tried so many different strategies. The one you're seeing now, the bolt strategy basically, with Charred, Tallnut, Imitator, and Stunnion, and of course the 2 necessary plants. Later on, I tried this strategy with Turnip, having both Charred Guard and Stunnion as the plant there. But the Stunnion, it just got triggered a lot because of Mechanic spawning there. And when I tried Charred Guard, it yielded similar results. It just didn't last until the ending. Because these were my last few attempts, I just went wild and picked Tumbleweed, a plant that deals damage, because I wasn't sure what to try anymore. That's how you know you've been attempting a level for too long. Well, it's at least legal, but sadly it doesn't work with Charred Guard in this mod. Which, I get it, the combo is broken, but like, it's still a bit sad. And of course I knew it wouldn't work with Tall Nuts because I would be losing out on too much DPS. Here I tried using Tile Turnip without the Stunnion, but it just didn't work because Stunnion is too valuable a plant to lose. And this level really puts into perspective how dangerous zombie synergy can be. Like, alone Mechanic and Coal Miner and Furnace can be threatening, but when combined with backward zombies and themselves, they are a major issue. Which, I mean, can make sense if you really think about it. These zombies from this world are just support zombies. Furnace is quite efficient, though he needs other support. Mechanic is that other support, and he works well with basically everything. And then there's one zombie later who is very direct with his synergies, but he's good, so he gets a pass. Wait, he doesn't need one. This run when I tried Hurricane perfectly demonstrates why Flame Warp doesn't work with both Mechanic and this level. It doesn't work with Mechanic because you just follow the Clockwork zombies a bit, and while you can get some DPS on Mechanic himself during that downtime, it's generally not that much. And B, the backward zombies can just teleport onto the building instructions and you just lose. Speaking of which, the building instructions make this level like 50 times worse. Like, if they weren't here, then this level wouldn't be that challenging, but I guess maybe it would have. This level was built around these things existing, so maybe in an alternate timeline it would have been harder for a different reason. Who knows? Here I just flat out tried to use Red Stinger, which was just a bad idea. I should have just used Primal Walnut if I wanted another wall. It's 25% cheaper, and there's no chance that it accidentally deals damage when I put it on column 5. 2, 1. I wanted to show footage of backward zombie reaching the top lane building instruction because that happened a lot during my early attempts. But the 1 hour footage I got here was from a later attempt, and in that later attempt, not only did my strategies get better, I also got better at the game. So that means that stuff like that wasn't really happening that often. Well, except in that one Hurricane attempt, but that was more also a Death Wish. After editing my save file, I just used premiums. I guess plastic cost gems would be premiums in Reflourished system. I decided to use Pumpkin, and Pumpkin was literally the answer to Mechanic. It was a wall plant that takes up no space, which is literally all I could ask for. Not to mention that if I plant rooted, which spoiler alert, I do a lot because otherwise my Puff-Shrooms die, gets an extra 8,000 HP, which is quite a lot. The same amount of HP as Tall Nut, in fact. And once I figured that out, all I needed was luck. Because a lot of zombie spawns in this level are actually random. Which is funny because in later levels, almost everything is scripted. After that almost impossible level, we have reached the level that's easier, day 21. This level introduces Inventor, and she's fine. She's a flying brickhead, which isn't all too relevant because we have Tallnut, and it's also not relevant because we aren't using Potato Mine or anything like that. Nor are we allowed to use Blower. The objective kinda sucks. This plant really likes being spammed, Puff-Shroom, and the objective is anti-spamming. So we gotta use tall nuts and also primal sunflower occasionally, efficiently. The ending, however, was very close. I almost ran out of sun. Granted, that was due to stupidity not placing primal sunflower, but also I packed back fast with the power at least, so not really. Yeah, this level was pretty close because I could only place 14 plants. Day 22 is the fun variety conveyor belt level with soybean pod, and also electricity because advertisement level not relevant. Day 23 has this weird swirl out because it's the level after we unlock Maypop Mechanic. Maypop Mechanic is a heavy plant that really deals well with Mechanic thanks to the bouncing gear hitting him multiple times with his enormous 2-tile hitbox that just eats everything. And also good in general. It's good against backward zombies. The backwards gear has almost the exact same damage as a Split P barrage, or I guess 2 times speed damage. But unlike Split P, it also deals damage in the front, and also the gear is not P shooter damage. Well, I think it can be P shooter damage only, but it has the potential to be non-P shooter damage. Otherwise, this level's not that special, especially after we discovered it's not even pumpkin strats at this point. It's just regular charge strats because we can't plant anything on those specialized tiles for Maypop. And I actually didn't realize that Maypop's backwards gear had range. It makes sense if you think about it, but I didn't. Day 24 is unique in 2 different ways. The first way is that it doesn't have mechanic. That's not really that relevant, but a lot of part 2 has mechanic, so And the second thing is the flower line. It's unbelievable what zombie is the most dangerous. It's not really Furnace because he has a counter, and it's not Inventor either because Tall Nut. It's actually Coal Miner because Coal Miner breaks all our walls, and he 99.999% of the time enables stuff. He enables Inventor to just land on our Puff-Shrooms and just trample the flower line and make us lose. Coal miner is just annoying in general because he can be a buckethead and just make progress, and we can't deal with him in time. Yeah, he's the main source of the issues. That's because he's the other enabler besides mechanic. Also, backward zombies have a tendency to be kind of annoying. And here's a clip showing how dangerous coal miner can be. The final wave was close here too, go figure. Actually, this is kind of a tremendous part too because game design, game gets hard during late levels, so is pure, except later levels of a world instead of game. There are two ways of beating Steam Ages to 25. The Lotus Root spam way, or the wrong way. I'm spamming Lotus Root and oh, we know it. Steam Ages 26 introduces Repair and Pool. Apparently was a late addition, and by his ability, not to be mean, but you can kind of feel it. His ability is to drop a healing machine, which heals specifically the Part 2 specials and no one else. Like, that's, I know this is a coincidence, or maybe it was done intentionally. That intentionally is only the Part 2 specials, I don't think so. Plus it does with the other machines in the other worlds. The fact that it's exclusively Part 2 specials in its world is funny. Anyways, his ability. His ability is to heal 400 HP of zombies every 2 seconds. Our max DPS is like 60 or something. Yeah, no, very, very smaller than 200. It needs to be done. In normal playthroughs, you do two things. A, instance. B, remove the machine somehow. This guy's coded off of M4. You can do quite a few more things with him, like you can use Impair, for example. He's not coded off of healer like 99% of droppers. But I'll talk about him a lot more in day 27 because he's very annoying there. Day 27 is a level with only 2 specials. Though, unfortunately, it's the best specials in the world. Mechanic and Repair Imp. And these two are the best. Also alone with other zombies, but especially with themselves, which is actually why Repair Imp plants himself in S tier. Because together with Mechanic, they can form indestructible walls. I can't do enough damage to the clockworks with the repair machine. I'm not doing 200 damage per second with Puff-Shrooms. Well, also his plant food, but that takes a long time usually. And Repair Imp can also heal himself, and he drops his machine on the walls. So he gets to the front, he drops his machine on death, and then that machine heals all the clockworks around, which allows Repair Imp to drop his heal box right on our walls on the next tile, which then allows clockworks to advance further a tile, and from that point it just repeats itself until death of one or the other. And thankfully, this is counteracted by enough damage of plant food. But then there is also another variable that makes this 5 times worse in day 27. The endangered magnet shroom. This thing does nothing other than make the level more annoying in a challenge run. And even in general, it kinda makes the level more annoying. Not unbearable, just more annoying, because it triggers Repair Imp early. And also just makes the level go by faster, which means more waves where mechanics can stack, and more times for Repair Imps to get his ugly mug in the back, which you don't want, to say the least. I think Mechanic was just mad that I fumbled him with the dumbest strategy, which is this in Steam Ages Day 20, and Repair Imp probably heard the bad word I said about his relatives in Garden Rush or something like that, or just in general, because pimps are trash. Usually. This guy isn't, because he's technically a special. kind of saying this because outside of Steam Ages 20, which was more so the planned evil level, this is just a level that just offers the feature two zombies with insanely good synergy. So in a way, this is kind of the zombies are finally tired of my BS strategies and are finally standing up in a not intentionally desired super hard level. Just a normal hard level. And this continues to be a trend down the line of Steam Ages, aka the last 5 levels. And I couldn't beat its the card strategy, because Repairing seal boxes were just too much. I couldn't help my supply of plant food. I only had parallelly an imitator. So what was there left? Well, what was left was something very silly, which fit perfectly with the challenge run. And that's called healers coded in a very, very dumb way. And actually, wait, no, the plants are coded in a very, very dumb way. And I'm just exploiting that. For experimenting with all sorts of non-damaging instas. And also Hurricane and Flame Warp, even though they absolutely do not work, even if you put them at the back, because they despawn before the zombie reaches the position. And also, Repairing is in his death animation, which made the best pick Stalia, both as just general crowd control, aka it was not just for Repairing, and also it helped us repair him. It was quite situational. It was only really useful during the mid-game. In the early game, you can't really use it because, well, you can't use Stalia on a corpse. On a undead corpse. But stacking it on top of mechanic does prove to be useful in both crowd control and actually stopping Repairing from dopping his machine. Oh, and speaking of stopping from dopping his machine, parallelly imitated parallelly. Imitator parallelly is super generous, and parallelly, even though it's very specific, both can prevent Repairing from dropping his machine. And I think in my successful attempt, or in an attempt, I actually did that with parallelly and felt quite proud that I actually timed that somehow. Also, apparently, he can stall his death animation. That's so weird. On the final wave, using more launch is basically mandatory. You're not getting through without using more launch on the middle row, or you're just highly unlikely, because there'll just be repair machines stacked there and you can't really do anything. Well, you technically can, but you just don't have enough setup time. The block works. Funny meme aside, yeah, no, we're not beating this level. We can't use more than 11 power lilies, and you have to deal with Gargantuar, who might smash our plants. Furnace, I did not even realize was illegal here. And then Mechanic, who's obviously gonna cause problems. And behind that crowd is also Repair Imp and Coal Miner. So yeah, no, we're mega screwed here. We're not doing anything here with Puff-Shrooms. And this successful attempt with Cattail ended in... well, it ended with 0 plants. What am I supposed to say? Moving on. Steam Ages Day 29 is, to say the least, a test of patience. For the first half of the level, you basically just gotta use Time Warp repeatedly while stalling Primal Sunflower of all things, because otherwise you're not gonna make it to the second half of the level with enough sun. In the second half of the level, you have to stall out mechanics on the side rows in the dumbest way possible. And this level cannot be beaten any other way, because we quite literally only have 1 puff of damage. can only use plant food on one puff. And that's why you gotta use sweet potato to redirect the clockworks onto other rows. And then we attack them with our actual firepower, not the one puff firepower, which is already kind of the limit for Mechanic, who has 3000 HP, and our Puff-Shrooms deal about half of a P-Sure, which I assume is like 560 or something. I think it's 560 damage since it does half of P damage, and P shooter kills Buckethead. So yeah. As I said, yeah, this quite the endurance challenge. You can lose on so many variables here. You can miss time power lilies because you can now no longer loop them after you've run out. You can, if you're impatient, you're gonna miss mistletoes, and once you actually get into the rhythm with mistletoes, it takes a while because mistletoe has insanely high recharge. Time warp, while being a good emergency option, and the only reason this level is possible, he's not that good. Also, you basically have to imitate him because otherwise you're not reaching the time limits. I also want to quickly mention Pumpkin, who helps so much this level that I don't think it can be beatable without him. He allows us to get an extra pair of Primal Sunflowers in the first half. He protects against clockworks gone wrong in the second half, before we have set up all our sweet potatoes. And in general, it's just good utility. Also, I want to quickly mention that the second part of the level took 11 minutes without 2x speed. However, that part is extremely micro heavy, so you can't really do that. So yeah. Be patient and you'll beat this level after some time. I really recommend using 2x speed wisely, so this doesn't take 11 minutes like it took me. Also, yeah, the sooner you kill Mechanic the better, because his clockworks stay on the lawn for a long while. Well, Steam Ages Day 30 is a very cool level that I really enjoy. It's not relevant to the challenge because it's still locked and loaded, so... Well, here we are, the final level of the challenge. The one where every single zombie is here. From the best of the best to the mediocre of the mediocres. All of them are here. All with their own unique shenanigans. Well, except Gentleman. His shenanigan is existing and being a conehead. Basically. Well, he's also triggering Shard Guard, but Inventor would have triggered that, and the backward zombies would have definitely triggered that due to this particularly devious pseudo replacement. The only real threat pre-flag 1 is this one coal miner here who just comes in at the worst wave for things like this. And he can sometimes just place the coal here where I can't attack it, and just not ends my run, but makes it like 50 times harder. Also in the lane where this fluke happens, there just comes a Gargantua the wave after. So yeah, he can wombo combo me with Gargs now. Oh joy. Outside of some pumpkin setup for the backward zombies and the Mechanic showing up alone with almost no one to support and basically being with free bait for plant food, nothing really happens here. Well, except an annoying repair and furnace combo, but I think that's random. And also an inventor who basically just leads herself to her doom. From the second flag onward, things are very hectic. Gargantua is being sort of commonplace, the trifecta of Mechanic, Repair Imp, and Furnace appearing, which I haven't talked about, but it's kinda dangerous. Mechanic gives cover to Furnace, Furnace can get further, Repair Imp drops heal box and heals Furnace, and just delays the explosion, all whilst protecting that heal box potentially, and just spawning more clockworks. Combine that with backward zombies who appear way more frequently and more frequently healthy, and we land ourselves in a predicament. Not a very big one, yet, but soon to be one. And by soon to be one, I mean flag free. Just look at this. 2 guards, quite a few backward zombies, a double stack mechanic somehow, and 2 mechanics just in general for the wave. All that combined with some repair shenanigans from the previous waves, potentially, and some furnaces. Top it all off with the guards. Yeah, a predicament indeed. Also, these imps just target our sunflower. Well, sun-shrooms in this case, so yeah, that's not fun. And with our sun production and attackers out the window, yeah, we're not really in a position to come back. Nor do we have any lawnmowers for any comebacks. After experimenting a lot more with different plants, some not really getting the amount of experimentation they should have, if I'm being honest. I didn't really give them a chance. Some didn't deserve a chance. Others kinda did. The deck that I ultimately went with was my go-to one, except replaced Tallnut with Stalia, because Tallnut in this stage actually really isn't useful. If I want a tanky wall, Plant Food Pumpkin. If I want something to block Gentleman and Inventor, I don't need it. Charge Guard has me covered from the back, and he's only really being used in emergency situations otherwise, because he keeps getting exploded on the front, so yeah. Not really worth bringing Tallnut. And Primal Sunflower because it has more utility than Sunshroom, which I can't do anything with other than place in this early game. And I don't really need that much on an early game, it's more about keeping it in the late game, which Primal Sunflower is quite good at. Also, I can place it in the front in the early game to greet a bit of extra sun, if I need it. And Stalia actually can waste a guard's slam, so yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Also, it's a 3x3 slowing option that needs no space. I need my space. And Sun in the late game is not generous, so yeah, I'm gonna take that. Plus, slowing down Gargs and other big threats like Coal Miner is useful, of course. We're getting in that extra sun and extra wait time to get my power release. The footage you're seeing right now is that one of the winning attempts. I don't really enjoy the early game, but I wanted to show you the fact that this Coal Miner put about the most useless pile of coal you'll ever put in this level. He put one on an easily replaceable tile and on a pumpkin which I can use plant food. So yeah, 0 major casualties. These Primal Sunflowers stayed about up until first mechanic, or a point where they would certainly die. This due to Barrel and this due to Coal Miner. And they would have been that next wave to Mechanic, Furnace, and Repair Imp. And said Mechanic wave didn't really do much to our defenses. We just kept building on. Well, like, obviously our pumpkin sustained some damage, but it's not anything to worry about. One Gargantuan Mechanic combo later, the second flag. Not much really happens between the second and third flag that damaged our defenses because we killed these 2 mechanics. Otherwise, yeah, it would have been done though. Also, column 9 repair boxes are actually not that threatening because they can be comboed with Clockwork and also the behind mechanic. So they really aren't that important. They are important after a mechanic dies. However, by that point, we're kinda set. Thanks to the fact that the second flag really didn't leave much behind for the third one, it meant that we actually got past the third flag onslaught mostly unharmed. Mostly. We lost a couple pumpkins now on the way because of a furnace, but that was inevitable. Well, the bottom line was quite damaged, and little repair boxes, and the top lane was filled with clockworks. None of these things really interfere together, which is what makes them as dangerous as they are. So it really was sort of smooth sailing up until the final wave. Speaking of the final wave, well, I did get backed into a corner, pretty hard I should mention. It was not run-ending hard, it was just severely pushed back. And the only lanes I really need to take care of were the free mechanic lanes, because since they're coded off of generals, they're immune to lawnmowers. The optimal play right here would have been to put the walls on lanes 2 and 3 and then leave lane 5 for the lawnmower up until the next clockwork spawns, then place the wall, while potentially sneaking in some sunflowers. However, even after 31 levels of Steam Ages, in a challenge run which really puts my PvZ skills to the test, I'm still not the greatest PvZ player. I am not close to that in the slightest, though what I am very close to is being very good at using very dumb decks in Plants vs Zombies too. This is kind of the charm of PvZ2. You can do whatever, and the game really doesn't care. Well, unless you're playing very stupid, though sometimes even then you get a free pass, because the game said so, and because the adventure mode is not that, it's not Kaizo levels. And that was the challenge run. At a very level, only Steam Ages Day 28 was completely impossible, though that's kind of an asterisk because it was an objective that made us fail. So technically, you could say that every single level was possible. That's also, again, that's a question mark. I don't want to make this outro too long, considering the video is over an hour long, so I'll just say this. Next video will definitely take less time. I procrastinated on this one so much, and I already have possibly have the footage for the next video. I say possibly because I have two ideas. Another PvZ2 mod challenge run, but also a PvZ1 mod video that I'm slowly making as to kind of improve a bit my experience on game balancing in PvZ2. That's the best hint I'll give you. Also, speaking of mods, my mod idea PvZ2 A Blast from the Past, that's completely postponed because I'm thinking of what even to turn the... I'm still sticking to the same idea of PvZ A Blast from the Past, though just how it's going to be executed is a big question mark. And I kinda want to leave it alone for a while. I know I just said I didn't want to make the outro too long, but I got to talk about College's Carnival for a bit. It's fine, it fits as a world in PvZ2, I think. Though, personally, I'm not a fan of the gimmick. The tarot cards just seem a bit too confusing, and I've already got some ideas for challenge runs, yes. The tarot cards confuse me. I don't know if I'm just overcomplicating them. Are they actually complicated and I just don't get it? Or just I made a complete wrong plays against them. It could be any of the three. So that's a discussion for another day. Anyways, like and subscribe and have a good day. I don't really know what to say. I just do these both standard because I don't know what to say. Plus that shows that you like my content.